If you haven't watched the previous video from Will's story, go watch it first. The events return to Will's past, where he was pitiful from the beginning, suffering from severe bullying. They placed a sign on his back that read "No Talent." At that time, Tsue was affected by what was happening to Will and decided to help him out of the cycle of bullying. So, he offered Will to become one of his followers, but Will ignored him and left. Tsue followed him, angry, and Will gave him a sorrowful look, telling him to leave him alone and not follow him again. Will did not want to befriend anyone or work with anyone. All he dreamed of was reaching the top of the tower. Since then, Tsue has deeply resented Will for ignoring and rejecting his help. Now he wants to defeat Will in this festival, so that Will won't reach the mage tower, Magia Vander. Tsue attacked Will with his fire magic, and Will quickly dodged it. Tsue yelled at him, ordering him to attack with all his might, but Will refused, because they were on the same team. He also wanted to keep his promise to the divisions and take revenge on Julius. This made Tsue even angrier, causing chaos, which was not in the team's favor and would lead to their loss in the crown attack competition. Edward pretended not to approve of fighting between team members, but in truth, he was happy because Will would fail in this year's festival. Even the commentator Mike realized that Edward was very pleased with what was happening to Will's team. Meanwhile, Rusty was worried about Will. At that moment, Iris approached and sat next to him, pretending to be just a regular student like him. Rusty was adamant that she was cheering for Will's lack of talent. She replied, "At first I saw him as talentless, like everyone else, but when someone told me about him, I became obsessed with him." Rusty also loved Will more than anything else, as he had gotten to know him closely since they shared the same room. The competition continued, and a confrontation appeared between Colette and Julius. Colette aimed to stop the ongoing fight between Will and Tsue, but Julius completely refused, provoking her to accept his challenge and not run away. Suddenly, Colette accidentally stepped on a magical trap, causing an explosion. The audience was shocked by what Julius was doing. Many of his copies obstructed everyone participating in the crown attack, even challenging the talented Wignall. This was Julius's secret weapon. But Wignall uncovered the trick and easily destroyed the copies, having learned it earlier from one of the Magia Vander. The audience was highly impressed by Wignall's actions, predicting he would surpass everyone after Will's team had been leading. However, Tsue ruined it, shocking his teammates with his actions and causing them to lose many points in the grand festival. Will still did not understand why Tsue was so focused on him and hated seeing him at the academy. The events flash back again to the past, where Will was pitifully mocked in this academy. He was alone, and all the students laughed and bullied him simply because he was a failure and couldn't use magic. Will stopped trusting anyone and got used to living alone. That's why he didn't care about Tsue and refused to join his team, deciding instead to walk steadfastly towards his dream and not listen to the voices of his bullies. His only dream was to follow Elfaria. He didn't know that his actions towards Tsue would create a great enmity between them. Now Tsue used a powerful spell and summoned a fire eagle, ordering it to burn Will out of existence. Will was shocked by the terrifying power Tsue had reached and decided to fight him seriously, but the fire eagle chased him wherever he went. Will found himself trapped between Tsue's flames and the eagle's flames, but thanks to his magical glove, he barely managed to block the attack. The commentator Mike and Edward were stunned by Tsue's power. He had surpassed the student level. Tsue summoned the Eagle Guardian, and on top of that, attacked with high-level fire spells. Even the fire team admired Tsue and planned to recruit him to their group stationed in the Magia Vander Tower, led by the Flame Emperor Cariot. Will struggled to match Tsue's power, while Tsue shouted at him, ordering him to fight with all his strength and show the same power he used to defeat an evil sentinel in Demas. Will asked him why he wanted to fight him, and Tsue replied, "After I looked down on you and bullied you, and you still refused to fight me, aren't you angry with me?" Will answered, "Who said I'm not angry with you? But now, I have to defeat Julius, not you." This response provoked Tsue even more, who said, "Seeing you refuse to give up, even though you're talentless, makes me furious. Don't ignore me, and consider me your enemy." Will was shocked that Tsue only wanted him to fight with all his might, and see him as an opponent. So Will agreed to fight Scion with all his strength, making Scion happy, who then summoned the Fire Guardian again. Will thought that the Fire Guardian would block all his attacks, so he planned to bypass it and strike Scion by surprise, but Scion surprised him with a terrifying attack, launching dozens of powerful spells along with the Fire Guardian simultaneously. But despite this, Will moved skillfully, shocking Scion and cutting the Fire Guardian's core, then quickly charged at Scion. Scion didn't give up and unleashed all his magical power, but suddenly a rock pillar appeared between them. Colette had returned to save their team from losing. Scion was shocked by her appearance, as she had suffered greatly to escape Julius's copies, and blamed Scion for everything that happened to them. She ordered Will to catch up with Julius before he could defeat them in the crown attack. Here, Scion was angry and refused to let anyone surpass him, so Colette screamed at him and hit his foolish head. Then Will offered his coat to Colette and thanked her, causing her to blush as she loved him. Will said to Scion, "I'm sorry, but now is not the time for us to fight," and left him. Now, the teams were about to reach the arena, and the first team to arrive was the 9th team, led by Julius, and it seemed that the matter had been decided, as no one could stop Julius from getting the crown. But suddenly, Will jumps from the sky, arrives at the field, and catches up with Julius. Will challenges Julius to a real fight here and now. Meanwhile, in the wizard's tower, the new virgin staff of Elfaria appears while she is sleeping. She is struck by Officer Sarissa, who advises her to stop being lazy and to fully realize her position as a mage. Elfaria is always sleeping while observing the world below. Sarissa brought her the potential candidates recommended by the scouts to join the ice team, among them a strong person worthy of joining the Ice Guild, who is Julius, who is causing a great stir at the Grand Magic Festival. For this reason, Sarissa sees Julius as the successor of Elfaria in the future. Elfaria is also impressed by this person's abilities, but she sees it as difficult for him to become her successor. Meanwhile, in the arena, Will is present to fight Julius to see who will seize the crown first. Julius bullies him and says, "I don't want to win until I've humiliated you in front of everyone." Will also says, "Losing to you is not an option unless you apologize to Mr. Donnan and the 10 dwarves." Julius begins using his magical trick and exploits the properties of ice to create an exploding smoke bomb that traps Will. Will becomes surrounded by Julius and his companions. Suddenly, an ice rock attacks from behind, which Will deflects. He chooses to stop running to avoid defeat in this smoke. When the ice rocks attack him, he uses them to locate his enemies, but when he attacks Julius, he is shocked by the appearance of a large ice rock. The bigger shock is that Julius and his companions haven't moved from their place, meaning that Will was only fighting Julius's clones. Julius had used illusion magic and created 4 clones of himself. Will, shocked by Julius's power, realizes that this spell is considered impossible for the students here, and the catastrophe is that Julius detonates the ice clone, freezing Will completely, making him unable to move a single hair on his body. Edward is also amazed by Julius's abilities, as the illusion magic he used is one of the secret arts discovered by Elfaria. Elfaria had discovered 12 secret spells, and now Julius is using one of them, a spell that creates new clones of its user. Will, in shock, asks Julius how he can use Elfaria's magic. Julius starts laughing, mocking him, and tells him that he is talented and learned this secret art by studying alone. He is also striving to uncover the secret of Elfaria's power. Will becomes angry and breaks the ice, charging at him quickly, but Julius traps him again with clones. Suddenly the clones stop attacking, and a huge magical force forms around Will, creating a cage that nothing could break. Will becomes trapped inside and can't break the cage, and if he touches it, his body will freeze. Julius mocks him in front of the audience, saying, "The easier it is to control the animal in the cage, the easier it is to control it." He compares him to an animal, "May God honor you." Then Julius summons an ice block the size of a mountain and drops it on the trapped Will. It seems like the end for our hero. Even Edward believes the battle has ended in favor of the strong Julius. Since it is over, Julius introduces himself to the scouts, telling them that he is Elfaria's successor, as he is the only one who has managed to learn her magic. But Iris and Rosti are not worried at all about Will. Suddenly, The ice block starts to shatter, and the legend of Will emerges from beneath the debris. Julius is astonished at how he survived that attack. Will mocks him, saying, "If it weren't for your ice magic, you wouldn't have controlled my anger." Julius becomes furious and attacks with very fast ice blocks, but Will moves at an incredible speed, getting behind Julius's companions, and with one strike of his sword, takes down both of them. Because of that, Julius's ice clones shatter and collapse as if they had never existed. Will realizes that Julius was controlling the clones with the support of his team members because Julius is still weak and has not yet mastered the secret art of Elfaria. Will tells him, "Stop deceiving yourself. You are far from Elfaria's power." These words make Julius furious. At the same time, Elfaria appears, assessing Julius's skills, and tells Sarissa that he will not become her successor, as she wants Will by her side, not Julius. Elfaria tells him that he has not fully mastered her secret art, which is why he relied on his team members to help him manipulate the spell. Julius is extremely angry, to the point of clenching his teeth, and says to Will, "Someone with no talent like you in magic has no right to talk about spells." He then attacks with his exploding ice magic, creating many clones once again and making them attack Will with massive ice blocks. But Will evades his attack with great elegance. Julius thinks that Will won't be able to distinguish the real body from these clones because the clones he created were indistinguishable from him. But suddenly, Will attacks the real body and almost cuts Julius in half. Julius asks him how he knew which was the real body among these clones. Will replies that the clones do not resemble the real body because he didn't control the temperature of the clones perfectly, as they began to be affected by the ice magic and their limbs started to freeze. Julius is shocked by his deep understanding of magic, despite being a failure who couldn't even cast a spell the size of a fly. Will knows the capabilities of ice magic because he was a friend of Elfaria and grew up in the same orphanage, where he learned and studied ice magic. All the attendees are highly impressed by what Will is doing, and Elfaria trusts him, knowing that he is working hard to stay by her side. Will knows all the strengths and weaknesses of Elfaria's magic. Julius is screaming like a madman, unable to believe that the secret art of Magia Vander is known by the failure Will. He attacks him again, but now it's futile against the power of Will's sword. Here, Will praises Julius and tells him, "You're the only one who managed to mimic Elfaria's magic, but let it be known that this secret art, which you failed to perfect, was invented by Elfaria when she was only 2 years old." His pride was crushed in front of the entire audience, implying that the secret art that Julius boasted about was invented by Elfaria when she was very young. The spell had weaknesses that Julius didn't account for. All his dreams shattered. The power he spent his entire life learning turned out to be just a simple magic that a young child mastered. This means that Julius is on the same level as a child. He starts laughing sarcastically at his miserable reality and refuses to retreat or surrender. At this point, he summons new clones again, and this time he gathers more than 8 clones to blow up his enemy Will. But when Julius attacked Will with a barrage of ice blocks, Will taunted him by saying, "Are you proud of 8 clones? In the past, I used to face 10 of Elfaria, the girl who couldn't even reach her own strength." These words enraged Julius, and he attacked Will with a very fast whip of magic. But Will is the true embodiment of speed, moving gracefully and eliminating the ice clones one by one. Nothing stood in his way, not ice nor anything else. Everyone had underestimated him, but he possessed a legendary ability beyond magic. In seconds, he wiped out all the clones, reached the original body, and used the magic glove to blow up Julius's arrogant face. The force of the punch sent him flying into the wall, knocking him unconscious. This failure in magic held a terrifying power. With this, several talented individuals had defeated the elite of this academy, and the audience's perception of him changed from one of bullying to admiration, considering him a role model. All that remained now was for him to claim the crown, but the crown had already been stolen from him. Wignall's team had taken advantage of the fight between Will and Julius to seize the crown effortlessly. Thus, the winner of the crown battle is the 12th squad led by Wignall. It means that poor Will faced all the obstacles, and in the end, Wignall came and took the crown easily. He practically applied the saying, "Work smart, not hard." The important thing is that Will won the love of the audience after everyone used to hate him, while Elfaria started crying like a small child out of anger, thinking that Will exposed her past when he mentioned her age when she was 2. Julius is shocked by Will's superiority over him, so he goes to train and vows that he will be the one to defeat Will. Meanwhile, Will is pleased with the legendary performance he delivered at the Great Magic Festival. And with that, our episode for today comes to an end. The summary received over 1,000 likes, and the next part will be released soon. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel in appreciation of my efforts.